Welcome to The Drive with your automotive experts and hosts, Lauren Fix and Karl Brauer. Each week we deliver the latest breaking news, vehicle reviews, and inside look at what's happening in the automotive world. Buckle up, it's time to hit the road with The Drive.
Welcome to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. I'm Karl Brauer, and I'm here with my lovely host, as always, every week, Lauren Fix. Lauren, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Karl. Lots going on in the automotive industry, so we had to bring in a good friend of ours who has his ear to the ground, who gets to do different things than we do, Roman Mica from TFL. And Roman, you're just, I can't just say TFL, there's just so much to what your company is. So tell us about what TFL is and where people can find you.
Yeah, dude, I feel like I've been doing this forever now. I started in 2009, and since then we've grown the company from one YouTube channel to 9 YouTube channels. We even have one in Japan now, and 2 websites. Our TikTok got like 1.3 million. Our Facebook page is, I think, 700,000. And so we cover everything from motorcycles to cars to trucks to off-road, and just love anything to do with cars, trucks, and internal combustion, and even EVs, believe it or not.
So you're covering this in Japanese now too?
Yeah, we started a Japanese channel. It's done really well. So I'm pretty psyched to have. I went there for the first time 2 years ago, and I fell in love with the Japanese car culture. It's phenomenal.
It's huge.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Tokyo, would be the opposite side of the coin from LA. And I got to go to a couple of their car meets, and I can't believe just how passionate the Japanese are about cars. And so we figured, why not do what we're doing in America? But basically, they take our videos and then they voice them over and they put Japanese thumbnails on them. And apparently, Japanese people like seeing their cars off-roaded. Who would have thunk?
That's awesome. That is totally awesome.
That is really smart, and that's really cool. Japan's one of my favorite places to go. I always say you can go to a lot of exotic places on the planet, and you can go to a lot of safe places on the planet. There aren't that many exotic, safe places on the planet. Japan's probably the best one for both of those in one shot. So,
and it's kind of affordable right now, which is crazy because the dollar is so strong. So you can go to I went to a 7-Eleven. I had a sandwich, chips, a drink, and an ice cream for like $5. Try doing that in America.
You can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
In any place.
Yeah.
Remember when Vegas used to be cheap? Now it's like more expensive than everywhere else. It's so sad here. Well, you were just talking about how you did everything, including electric cars. You're covering that full spectrum. And you also were telling us before the show some interesting elements of a specific electric car, the most recent one that you added to the fleet, and what you've been doing with it. Or maybe I should say what you haven't been doing with it. So what have you been doing with your newest Tesla?
Yeah, this is going to be something I think that is going to be coming down the barrel very quickly. And I don't think people are quite aware of how far automation, or in Tesla terms, full self-driving supervised, has come. We've been lucky enough to buy a bunch of Teslas over the years, and I've been kind of following how first autopilot and then full self-driving and now full self-driving supervised has been evolving. And I'll tell you a little conspiracy theory at the end of this, which I think is actually true. And so with AI, in the last 2 years, there's just been exponential, let's say, growth in the ability of a car to drive itself. Because before, people were programming the computer themselves, but now the computer's kind of learning from itself. And when we had the Cybertruck last year, we would try full self-driving, and it had these, I call them until moments. It was great until it tried to kill you. And so which it did, seriously, it did try to kill you a couple times. So we thought, let's see how it's working. So this year we leased the newest Model Y with the latest technology and the latest software. And we gave it to the team to not drive for 2,000 miles. So the goal was to see if we could not drive the car. In other words, have the car drive itself for 2,000 miles. So everybody on the team got basically a week. We took it in the city, we took it in the suburbs, we road tripped it. And the idea was, not only did we never want to actually touch the steering wheel, but we never actually wanted to even touch the screen, because what Tesla does, which is so advanced, is it uses Grok, which is their AI, to actually interact with the car. So if you want to go somewhere, you just go, hey, Grok, take me to the Best Buy in Boulder, and it'll plan out the route and it'll take you there. And it's quite amazing at how good it is at doing that. And I know a lot of people will say, well, there was just a recent example where a Cybertruck almost ran a woman off in Texas off of an on-ramp. But the funny thing about that is, it's like every time an electric car catches fire, it makes the news, and yet people ignore the five non-electric car fires on the 405 that they've passed. So the bar for automation and autonomy is much higher than it is for anything else. And I'm a firm believer, guys, that computers are better at driving themselves than we are. And I'll tell you why. First, they don't get mad, they don't get drunk, they don't get tired. I can't see out the back of my head, but the computer certainly can. And here's a conspiracy theory, and I think this is actually true. So there's 5 levels of automation. So the 5th level is basically the car can drive itself under any condition without any input from any driver. So you really don't need a steering wheel.
That
and right
scares
now,
me. That's an amusement ride. That's scary.
yeah, that's kind of and right now we're at level 2, which means that the car can drive itself, but there has to be a human there to actually supervise it. And the difference between level 2 and level 3 is that the liability shifts from the owner of the car to the company. In other words, from me to Tesla. And I think the company is smart enough to realize that even if they would have level 3, which I think that actually full self-driving supervised at this point is level 3, that they don't want to say it's level 3 because then or in other words, Tesla becomes responsible if the car has an accident. But it was phenomenal. I mean, we did a road trip to Salt Lake City. We drove it in the snow. We drove it in the rain.
Wow.
We drove it in traffic. And like I said, there were no until moments. It was never like, this is good until something unexpected happens. And there were moments where we had to go through construction zones. There were moments where I drove it home, for instance, and I was following a school bus, and you'd think that this is a potentially dangerous situation with kids getting on and off. And the car, for the most part, never failed to do what I would do. And the real key to, I think, what makes full self-driving so clever is, and this is crazy, and I think only Tesla would do this, there are 5 different levels that you can set it to drive itself. So the 0 level, the base level, is chill. So it's very slow and it's very cautious. And then the crazy level, which I don't believe, is Mad Max, right? So you can say drive like Mad Max. And in a Mad Max, it'll roll through stop signs. It does like 10 miles an hour, over the speed limit.
But you're responsible if you roll through a stop sign.
Yeah.
But you can kill someone.
Yeah, you can have the car do that though. It's weird, but why that is so clever is we have this test called the Woolly Mammoth Challenge where we assign 100 points and we take the car through a very difficult section of I-70 that's got a lot of construction in it, and it loses points every time it does something bad. If it tries to kill you, it's an automatic fail. If it can't do point to point, it loses 25 points. And the Tesla by far is so much far ahead of all the other car companies at this point, which is, I think, because I think that the tech companies have this motto, right? Go fast and break stuff. And I use stuff instead of the other thing they say.
Yeah.
But I think that's where Tesla is. But the point with having these different levels is that what it does, it lets you drive or lets you have the car drive at the level that you would drive it. So I noticed when I was in the car with Andre, he sets it at chill. He likes to be very cautious, very slow, very careful. And that makes him feel much more comfortable driving the car. Whereas I like to set it at standard, which is kind of the normal way it drives, right? So it'll pass cars. It won't stick behind a truck if you don't want it to stay behind a truck. But the real magic here, and this is why we did this, is, my mom recently passed away, and we were at a point where we almost had to take the driver's license away from her, or, had that conversation with her. Because what ends up happening is they start having, your older folks, they start having accidents, they start having hard time driving at night. And Andre's wife's grandfather is 95 and he's still driving. And when he watched their videos, because everybody did a video on their experience with it, he actually went out and bought 2 Teslas because it allows him to actually keep his driver's license and have the car drive, even though he probably doesn't feel confident to drive himself. And, in this country, car represents everything. And if you lose that thing, it becomes very detrimental to your mental health, to your physical health. And so for certainly senior people who are afraid of driving, this is a really good solution. Now that I think the system is actually gotten to the point where I think it's better than human driver under most conditions.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick break. That was a great discussion. We're going to come back and talk about this some more, but we'll be right back on The Drive with Lauren and Karl and with our special guest, Roman Mica. So that's good, though. That was a really good
That was great.
comment. good amount of stuff. So,
And you heard
you know,
that Mercedes-Benz and BMW are not going to continue working on level 3 right now. They're putting it on
no,
hold.
what happened is I think it's more than that. What they did was they stopped level 3 on their current system because the AI stuff is so much better. So their current system, which is only level 3 system, right? You could like drive to Vegas from
LA.
California.
But the
Yeah,
liability switch is what I was thinking. That
Yeah,
was
at-
really interesting.
at 45 miles an hour, right? That's all they allowed. But it was such a crap system that they decided to flush it and start all over again. That's what I've been told, at least by a lot of people in the industry.
Yep. I know that like Super Cruise is good, but you can't use it all the time. You cannot do what you do with Tesla. And Blue Cruise has had a few issues as well. They've got a huge lawsuit going on right now. Are you restoring a car or a truck? Any vehicle while replacing those brake and fuel lines are critical. And here at The Drive with Lauren and Karl, we believe in safety. So getting new brake and fuel lines when you're working on a car or restoring a car is critical. So check out classictube.com. Built here in the USA, all parts are bent to perfection and easy to install. Every fit is exact every single time. Check out classictube.com. Now, Karl, I know you've restored cars as well, but when we're talking about cars in general, this is going to be, I guess we'll be restoring Teslas in the future. We want to continue this Tesla conversation.
Yeah, I had a question for you, Roman, because I've heard this from a lot of people. It's like, we're not touching the wheel. We're not touching the wheel. Just to confirm, you get in your driveway and you say, take me to the local best sushi restaurant, and you ask Grok, and Tesla the car figures out what the best one is and how to get there. It puts the car in gear. It backs out of your drive. You get to the sushi place. It pulls into the driveway, pulls into the next available. In other words, it's not just driving you down freeways or even three-way streets or getting through stuff like that. It's doing everything, or are you still touching the wheel when it's time to like turn into the parking spot and stuff?
No, it's doing everything. You don't have to do anything.
Really?
It'll even pull in and out of your garage if you wanted to. Well, and it also learns, which is kind of scary. So I'll give you an example. When I first got the car, we have a office building, and the parking spaces are all the way around the building, and it would pull into the very first parking space, which meant that I had to walk all the way around the side of the building. And then what I did was, it'll show you the little map on the screen where the parking spaces are, and you'll say, I want to park there, and it'll actually take you to that parking space. And the crazy thing, this is where I realized computers are much better than parking than me. It parks itself exactly in the middle of the two lines. I mean, like to the millimeter in the middle of the two lines. And then the other thing it did, which was scary but cool, every time I drove home, there was a big pothole, and the car would like boom slam into it, and I was like, this isn't good. And by like the third time, it figured out, or it knew that there was a pothole, and it went around it actually. So somehow it was crowdsourcing that information, or because I would, by the third time I was like, I'm going to take control because I don't want to slam into this pothole. So I would like correct, and then the next time it went around the pothole instead of going through the pothole. It's pretty crazy, yeah.
That's crazy stuff. All right, well, this is crazy. I cannot believe the capability of this car and what you're describing, Roman. You're making me want to go out actually now and at least lease one for a weekend and give this a try. But all right, we're going to come back with more on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. We've got a lot more great topics to talk about. Roman was in Japan, and he's got a lot of great information from the Japanese market. Not just the fact that he's got a site over there, but things that are going on with product coming to the U.S. soon. We'll be right back on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl, and this segment is brought to you by iSeeCars.com. That's where I happen to be executive analyst, and this site has everything you need when you're buying a car, whether you want to just check out listings from across the country, local, national, and anywhere in between, filter on make, model, year, mileage, price, body style, anything and everything you'd want to filter on, even projected lifespan. One of the unique things that we have will actually tell you how much longer that used car is going to last, and that's at iSeeCars.com. All right, so Roman, we were just talking about Tesla's self-driving capabilities, which sound a little crazy to me, but now you're making me want to go lease one and test it. What about any other companies that you've experienced? You were just in Japan, and I think you were there with Nissan as a guest, and they had their latest version of Pilot Pro or AI Pilot Pro, something like that?
You're close, ProPilot, yeah, AI ProPilot. I would say Nissan was always kind of the dark horse in this, but their system was always really good, and now it's gotten better. So obviously AI is a buzzword right now, so they're using AI. Whether it's using AI to its full extent, I don't know. But I got to ride in the car through downtown Tokyo, having the car completely drive itself. And we work out of Denver, and Denver's got a downtown, but it's nothing like Tokyo, because in Tokyo You've got, intersections that are, 5 streets deep. You've got motorcycles, you've got bicycles, you've got pedestrians. It's pretty
Scooters.
crazy.
Yeah.
Scooters, yeah. And construction. And they wanted to show us how good their system was. So we did this like 40-minute loop where we were able to experience the latest version of ProPilot, and it's also good. It also took us, without any issues, without any difficulties through downtown Tokyo, and drove itself completely. The biggest difference is they don't have the AI integrated yet into the system, so you still have to do the manual punch in to the screen, the address that you want to go to. But outside of that, really what's keeping, I think, there's two things that are keeping companies from adopting it. First is the legal fear of taking on that liability, and secondly is legislation. So in Japan, you can do it as long as you're a company testing it, but you can't yet legally have cars drive themselves.
Really?
But recently in Europe, they just allowed Tesla to go full self-driving. So like I said, it's coming down the pike quickly, much quicker than people realize.
Well, Tesla's certainly been in the lead on this, and I know that other brands have been doing some version of it. And it's funny because here in the U.S., they keep saying, we want automated driving. We want self-driving, cars and robo-taxis. But, and then it's funny, the company that's getting hit the hardest by the federal government is Tesla. And they seem to be the one that's literally leading the pack. And I like how you were saying earlier, there are different levels of intensity. Do you want to be the crazy person and roll stop signs, or no? I want to be something reasonable. And by the way, you can watch everything we're talking about on our YouTube channel, The Drive Car Show. So make sure to check that out if you're listening to the show or you missed any part of it. But what's your thoughts on where our future is going to be here in the U.S. as far as like cars like this and what we're going to be seeing on the road?
I think people are going to be surprised by how quickly this is going to roll out. Look, I sound like a self-driving fanboy, and I don't want to come across that way, because I love two things. I love driving and I love new technology. So this kind of encompasses both. But at the same time, I fear for the day when we'll be able to drive Mustangs at some ranch in Montana, because there'll be some politician, you know how this goes, will say, hey, self-driving can save X number of lives. So if you want to come into Tokyo or London or Chicago, you're going to have to go and set the car into full self-driving mode. And that's going to be really a sad day for me, because as much as, I like new tech, I enjoy driving a lot more. And I love the freedom, and I love the visceral fun of it. And there are times, like let's say I just came back from Japan, which I did. I get to the airport, I'm tired, I'm jet lagged. Hell yeah, have the car drive me home. But I don't want to do that all the time.
Yeah.
But there are, when you flip it around, there are some people who I actually know a friend of mine who bought a Tesla just for that, because he's a really bad driver. so
well, that's a good use of that type of technology.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, so there are uses for it. But I think for us car guys and gals, it's also the beginning of the end in some ways of what is, a paradise, especially in America right now, for people who love to drive.
Yeah, and I agree. I was just going to say, I do too. And I remember years ago when people were like, I would never want self-driving cars and stuff and all. And I would tell people, have you been on the 405 after 7 a.m. and before 10 p.m.? Because nobody's driving there, okay? Whether you're a human or a computer, nobody's driving. We're all just plodding along at slow miles per hour, zero, stop and slow go. And that's not driving. If a computer can handle that, and it's been great, because, I talked about it at our previous show, but I had a Toyota Prius, and I drove it from Los Angeles to St. George and back, 400 miles each way. And the few times there was major traffic, it's got traffic jam assist and all, and it was great. It's like, that's not full self-driving, obviously, but just the fact that I could go from, sitting for 30 seconds at no movement, and then start driving up for another 30 seconds, then stop again, never getting above 5 to 10 miles an hour. And I didn't have to do a thing. The car was doing it all for me.
Active cruise control does that,
I love that
too, Karl.
Yeah,
we've had active cruise control for decades.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is the, sorry, Lauren. I'll say this one last thing. This is the game changer, right? Blue Cruise, Super Cruise, right? These things they're super naggy, right? They're just like put your hands back on the wheel. Don't take your eyes off the. It's so annoying, or when the steering wheel vibrates, or when it pushes you back in the lane. That is just miserable, and I think most people hate that with a passion. The difference between that and full self-driving is, especially like the scary part about full self-driving, the Tesla model is like the first 2 minutes you're freaked out by it, and by minute 3 you're like, let me check my phone, which is not good. But it's that seamless. And Tesla, it changes, but for me, when we did our test, the Woolly Mammoth Challenge, there were a moment where it let me keep my eyes off the road for up to 2 minutes, which is
Wow.
one way crazy scary, but in another way super freeing. So yeah, it doesn't compare to all the naggy crap that's out there right now, where it puts you like in Super Cruise jail, right? Where it turns it off because you kept your eye off the road because you were changing the radio station or something silly like that. Sorry about that, Lauren. I didn't mean
That's
that.
all right. No, we got to pay a few bills
that's fair.
anyhow. We'll be
Yeah.
right back after this break, and we got more with Roman Mica and Karl Brauer here on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
I apologize if I'm
That's
going
okay.
too long.
No,
I should-
6:52.
Nope.
That was perfect.
That was perfect. Okay.
I figured if I didn't jump in quickly, you would, Karl. So
Yep. All right.
right.
So that was good.
top of the show for the second half hour.
You know what the shame is that Tesla doesn't allow journalists to drive cars. So most journalists don't have the
I know.
chance.
Now
This is they're
you have
leaving
to
a
rent
lot of
it.
lot of money on the table, because what they're doing is they're not allowing the people who have the most influence actually have, direct access to these cars and direct experience with them. And I think that's kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
you're
Their
right.
PR, they love to be, so edgy. We don't need no PR and stuff like that. And it's like, well,
They kinda do.
that's hurting you. You think you're cool because you're not doing that, but it's actually limiting you. So, but
That's true. Okay,
probably would
so
have larger adoption if more people knew about all this.
welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This week we have a special guest, Roman Mica from TFL Cars. You want to check him out on his YouTube channels. He has 9 of them, I believe he said. But if you missed anything on the show earlier, we were talking about full self-driving. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel, The Drive Car Show. Also, we're on podcast platforms, so we appreciate the support, or you can communicate with us through our social media, The Drive Car Show. Roman, you were just in Japan, and you were not just there for self-driving cars. You were there to see some new product that Karl and I did not see. So tell us what you saw, because it sounds like Nissan's making some major changes.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that like a year ago, Nissan was, at death's door trying to partner with Honda, and now,
Yeah.
now they've cut their expenses, they've cut the number of cars they're building, and they're introducing exciting cars, cars that actually us enthusiasts love. And so I got to see 3 new cars. The first one that's probably going to be the most popular here is the new Rogue Hybrid. And what makes that interesting is it's the first series hybrid. So it basically works like a train. In other words, the internal combustion engine does nothing but charge up the battery, which then moves the wheels. It's kind of cool. So there's no drive shaft between the ICE engine and the wheels. That's the way trains work. And I think it's the first car in America that's actually going to be driven like that. I don't know if they're going to make a big deal out of it. It's kind of a hard message to get across, but it will be. It was interesting to drive something that there's no connection between the ICE engine and the wheels. And the 2 exciting cars that I got to see, and this is still embargoed, so I'm going to have to be a little circumspect about how I describe these, but I'll try to give you hints. So the first one, which is the one that I was the most excited about, was the new Xterra. As you guys know, Nissan pulled the Xterra just as like overlanding and off-roading started to take off, and just left that world to the forerunner. I don't understand why they did that, but they've announced that they're definitely bringing it back. And I got to see it. Like I say, it's embargoed. I can't talk about that, but what I can tell you is that Andre, one of my coworkers, did an AI version of it, and it was remarkably remarkably similar to. I'm being careful here.
Where can we see it? If Andre's up there creating stuff, where can we see what you saw?
You can go to alltfl.com. You'll see it up there.
Okay.
So yeah, he didn't talk to me. He just had AI basically kind of come out with it, and it's exciting.
Smart.
That bring it back. That's the good news. The bad news is it won't be out till 2028, which is the same time that apparently the new Scout's going to be here. We're going to have a refresh
Hyundai Boulder.
We're going to have a refresh Bronco. We're going to probably have a new Wrangler. So they said that they've cut development time by like 30%, but I'm like, dude, you guys need to get that thing out like tomorrow, not 2028.
Yeah.
And then
What's the embargo date before you can say everything?
there were so many embargoes I forgot.
That sounds like some companies.
Is it a ways out though? You remember it's like months from now and all?
Yeah, it's months from now. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the one that I saw, which was even more exciting for all of you, like JDM, Japanese domestic market fans, was the Skyline. As you know, the Skyline is the vehicle that spawned the GTR. And they've already announced that they're bringing the Skyline in as an Infiniti Q50. So
Nice.
we're going to get the Skyline, and the word is it's probably going to have, you know, an internal combustion engine. Probably, I'm guessing at this because they haven't confirmed this, but it's going to be, you know, the same engine that's in the Z, which is 400 horsepower. And best of all, I think they've confirmed this. If I haven't, sorry, Nissan, I don't want to break an embargo. It's going to be manual, so we're going to get,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
a
That'll be
Skyline.
nice.
Yeah, which is great. So I think
Do we
that
know timing on? Do we know timing on that model year?
I think it's like another year and a half out from now still.
Oh, not
So,
too bad. Okay.
not too bad.
So
Yeah,
new
yeah.
leadership is doing new and exciting things, which I think they needed.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
took such a hit with this Carlos Ghosn and arresting their CEO and all that ridiculousness, and they really have to, you know, rise to the surface now and start pushing hard with some new product and get rid of those silly CVTs.
Guys, isn't it crazy how, like, you know, Nissan was going to, I think the government, actually, the Japanese government was going to make them partner with Honda. And since then, Honda has taken a $15 billion write-off.
That's
And
huge. That's
I
huge.
know. And Nissan is the one that's coming out of this smelling like a rose. And the one thing they did say, the CEO did say, is the reason they're bringing back the Xterra. Also, I think they're also going to spawn 2 Infinitis. Basically, they're bringing back body-on-frame trucks. And the
Really?
reason for that is because of recent legislation that allowed for, you know, basically getting rid of CAFE standards where companies don't have to have, like, you know, a leaf to offset the carbon from, let's say, an Armada. And so
Right.
since that law has been changed, it allowed them to bring back not 1, but I think 3 body-on-frame trucks, because those are trucks, which is really cool for all of us truck enthusiasts. When I
Does that
say
mean
trucks, I
Titan's
mean,
coming back?
no, not Titan. No.
I like the
But
Titan. Was it an HD or whatever it was? It was sort of like between a half ton and a 3/4 ton. I thought it was really wisely put together. But
XD.
but
Was it the
X
XD? Titan
XD
XD.
something. Yeah, I knew it was something. I knew there was 2
but think
letters there somewhere.
think about like an Infiniti version of the Xterra and probably a 3-row version of that as well, all
Wow.
based body
Wow.
on frame. Yeah.
So lots of good
Nice.
news coming from Nissan, but they really
Yeah.
needed to do something. I was quite concerned, and I think they need to be building cars that people want. And I mean, I like the kicks; they did a nice job with that, but they really need to start amplifying it, because I think that getting through whatever they went through, you're still competing with Toyota and Honda and literally every brand that's out there. And I think it's a big challenge, and the results could be quite good for Nissan and Infiniti. Although I wonder if they're going to pull Infiniti out to be its own sort of separate dealer group again, because at one point they made them merge into one dealership.
Yeah, we talked to the CEO. He didn't say anything about that, but he did say, and this is also big news, that they're already working on the next GTR. So for everybody
Wow.
who loves the GTR, and it probably will.
Nice.
He didn't say this. Actually, he did say this. I think he said it's going to be some kind of a hybrid, because in order to get the kind of horsepower to compete with like the new Toyota GT, they're going to have, or the Corvette, they're going to have some kind of a hybrid. When I say hybrid, not like a traditional hybrid where you're trying to save fuel, but one that's trying to put out more power to compete with these high horsepower cars like the new ZR1X.
That's
Corvette.
great. All right. Well, let's take a quick break, and we will come back because, man, that's a lot of information about
That's a lot,
Nissan,
Japan.
between self-driving cars and a lot of cool new models that are on the way. But that's good news, because Nissan kind of needs some good news.
Yes, they
So
do.
good to hear. All right. We'll be right back on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl and our special guest, Roman Mica. And this segment is brought to you by Karl Brauer Cars. That's my YouTube channel. I'm putting up 2 or 3 videos a week. You can check it out. I've done a lot of driving, everything from Toyota Priuses to Lamborghini Temerarios and Maserati GT2 Stradales. So I have a lot of fun cars, but I also have some functional and baseline cars for real world people, because I like them both. Karl Brauer Cars on YouTube. Roman, one of the things that I think has been interesting in the last 12 months that we're all aware of is not only the kind of whipsaw effect from it's all EVs all the time, we're going to all go EVs, everyone's going to go, oh, wait a second, man, the EVs don't really have to be made. We don't have to do that. You don't have to have a federal incentive to try to sell them as a carrot, and we don't even need to stick anymore to try to find automakers to build them. Well, I think a lot of people were unhappy about that, EV enthusiasts, and a lot of people were happy about that, non-EV enthusiasts and internal combustion fans like me, who like the Hemi. But mostly I like freedom of choice, and I like the market to decide. So I don't think the government should be deciding which cars we're driving necessarily. But the truth is that this was a big change in a short period. And we just saw the biggest write-downs in the history of the automotive industry. I mean, like over $100 billion in essentially write-downs is another fancy way for saying losses. The car companies across our country, let alone globally, that had to embrace the money they lost on betting all their farm on the EV movement and then having the EV movement, at least in this country, get yanked out from under them, really cost them a lot of money. And a lot of them are rightfully saying, okay, how do we plan for the future if in the next 5 years we could have the same thing happen again? If we all go all in on Hemis and big engines and big trucks and no concerns about EPA fines or CO2 requirements, and then all of a sudden it changes again. And now we've put all our eggs on that basket in the internal combustion, no concerns about pollution basket. And so regardless of whether you do or don't like this movement, it plays hell on the automakers who are on 5 to 7 year product plans typically, and you've got presidential administrations that can potentially change every 4 years. And it seems to kind of cause some financial disruption, as we just saw. What are your thoughts, Roman, on what do you think is going to happen in the next 4 years if we have another presidential election, which we're kind of, and what do you think the automakers can do or should do to kind of mitigate this?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a CEO of a car company right now. I mean, between tariffs, between oil prices, between government legislation, between consumer demand, whipsawing, it's just really hard to look into a crystal ball and predict what is going to happen 4 years from now. I'll take a stab at it though. First, I agree with you, Karl. I think when government gets involved in putting its finger on the scale, it's always bad. Let the market decide. If people want EVs, let them buy EVs. If people want Hemis, let them buy Hemis. But don't mandate that, because I think the second you do that, I think this has proved to be true, is you're going to drive people in the exact opposite direction. I think we probably have more EVs on the road today if the government didn't say by 2030 everybody's got to have an EV, or we're going to. And I think that just makes people want to do the exact opposite. So that's number one. Number two, I think that, at least if you look at history, the politics does swing in America, and it's been swinging, farther and farther. It used to be that it would swing from Republican to Democrat, but now it's gone very far right, which suggests to me that in the next election cycle, it's probably going to swing very far left.
Which could be a problem.
It's going to be a problem for car companies, because I could see the next president coming in and reinstituting all of the mandates that were there, and Nissan's going to be rolling out a new Xterra just when they're going to be back to having to offset the emissions from that truck by selling more Leafs. And I think that's a very difficult position for a car company to be in right now. And so, like, the car companies are just making different bets. Ford has bet that, and that's also been a bad bet in some ways, that everybody wants trucks, so they become a pure truck company. And Nissan is betting that everybody is going to want body-on-frame cars or trucks, which is, something I certainly would want. But that may change 3 or 4 years from now.
Right.
And initially when the war started, we were all like, this is going to be temporary, but now it's turning out to be much longer. And I don't know how long gas prices have to stay in California. They're probably, what, Karl, $6 a gallon, something like that, $5 a gallon.
Yeah, over 6 easily.
Yeah, before people start
in LA,
before people start making buying decisions based on the price of gas. And that's, I think, out of all of the different factors, that's the one that's going to be crucial, because unlike, let's say you sign up for Netflix, right? They take that money out of your account every month and you don't even notice. But with gas, every time you drive by a gas station, you see that big, like, $6 a gallon flashing at you. It just reminds you that, in your Hemi, you're spending a lot of money driving around town. So, and I know it's probably temporary.
It is. I think it's temporary. I think the prices are going to drop pretty quickly. But one thing that you did say that I think it's really important, the next administration that comes in, let's say they want to go all EV, that's not going to happen because of the way the law was undone through the Supreme Court. So you can say we want more electric cars, but you can't mandate that EV mandate to return, because of the way the law was written and the way the federal government has adjusted things, and the Supreme Court has said, nope, you can't mandate what people drive. So that part of it's out the door, but you can make it painful by making gasoline so expensive that people go, maybe we should be looking at a plug-in hybrid or an electric as an option.
Yeah, and then of course the elephant in the room is the Chinese. And I think if people think that we're going to keep the Chinese out of here, I think they're
for a short
dreaming.
time.
Yeah,
sure.
I think they're coming. I mean, when you think about it, what Chrysler sells one car right now, a minivan.
Yeah.
It would not be outside of the realm of possibilities for somebody like Geely or BYD to buy Chrysler, take what they call now a Dolphin and rebrand it as a 300,
Yeah.
build it in America, which is what the Trump administration wants. And next thing you know, you're driving, a Chrysler 300, which is actually a Chinese Dolphin. This is not out of the realm of possibility. It's already starting to happen in Canada. We've already got Chinese cars in Mexico. I want to say the latest number was like 20% of cars in Mexico are now Chinese. That's how quickly. And the Chinese, 10 years ago, they built really crappy cars. I don't know if you remember when we were at the Detroit Auto Show, they were kind of in the basement and you look at those things and
We
you're
were
like,
like,
that's a golf cart. Yeah. But now, if you've been in like the latest car that we drove was the Shark, the BYD Shark, which is this range extended little mid-sized pickup. It's really good. The technology is really good. The interiors are really good. And they've been able to crack the code in terms of having much shorter product cycles. And one of the reasons they can, of course, do that is because in China, underneath the skin, they all share the same components, right? Our car manufacturers use different subcontractors. And so every car is made up of different components and they use second-tier suppliers. In China, that little motor that runs the windshield, or even that 1.5 liter that seems to be in all Chinese cars, is exactly the same. And so when the stuff underneath it is identical, it's very easy, like GM used to do, right? The Tri-5. Like you can change the exterior of the car every year or every 2 years and make it seem like it's brand new to the casual observer because everything underneath it is exactly the same. And so this is a way of building cars that is coming, whether you like it or not. And you can bemoan and you can say that Chinese are going to put in spyware, you can do all that. But at some point, if they decide they're going to build cars here and hire Americans to build them and then sell them for, let's say, they're not stupid, right? They're not going to sell them for 10 or 15,000, but they can sell them for 20 or 25.
Right.
With the average price of the new car being between 40 and 50 now, that stuff's going to sell.
We're going to take a quick break, though, Roman. We love your insight. We want to come back after the break. We'll be right back on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment brought to you by Car Coach Reports. We cut through the noise. This is my news channel where we give you a lot of information you're not going to get anywhere else. We talk about things without any spin, right to the point so that you are knowledgeable because knowledge is power. You can watch all my car reviews on Car Smarts. Both are on YouTube or just go to carcoachreports.com. All right, Roman, we've been talking about a lot of different cars, but for Karl, he just drove a very cool truck.
Yeah, and real quick, Roman, we were talking about how there's all this reason to do body on frame vehicles. There's like no punishment or there's no downside. Americans love them, and now there's not even regulations to keep us from doing them. But I look at something like the mid-sized truck segment or small truck segment, whatever you want to call it today. And I just had this Toyota Tacoma Pre-Runner. It was just an extended cab. The Pre-Runner's not even four-wheel drive. It's just rear-wheel drive. But it's kind of got this cool like attitude to it because, it is the Pre-Runner was like it ran the off-road path before the actual race just to check it all out and stuff. So it's got this kind of cool vibe to it. And I used the vehicle for a very practical reason. I had to bring a bunch of stuff to a swap meet. But it was so well utilized for that purpose. And it's such a well-executed vehicle. And it was funny. It was sitting behind our official tables, the display tables where we're selling stuff at the swap meet. And there were people looking back at the truck. Whoa, check that thing out, and asking about it. It's like, no, the truck's not for sale. It's not even my truck.
You're selling cars now, Karl.
Apparently, it's like, all right, Toyota, I'm giving you some good visibility. Apparently, people are liking your truck here at the swap meet. But they have been the best-selling truck for over 20 years in that segment. Tacoma has been the best-selling truck in the midsize segment since 2005. They've had their best year yet in 2025. I don't know what it would take at this point to unseat Toyota, but you've got a big contingency that follows you for your truck stuff. You guys are right there perfectly positioned in Denver to go up and down those passes and test trucks. So I feel like trucks as well as anyone, Roman. What's it take, if anything, to unseat Toyota from that crown sitting at the top of the mid-size segment with the Tacoma?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Karl. I want to say they sell right around 250,000 Tacomas every year. And the next best would be, I think, GM with the Canyon Colorado twins. Those are like at 100,000. So not even close, right? And then Ranger comes in below that at like 90,000. That's the mid-size truck segment. What would it take to, the thing about the Tacoma is it's got the magic in the Tacoma is, I want to say, out of all the vehicles in America, no matter almost where you are, it depreciates the least. So
the taco, they call it, right?
Yeah, in 3 years, the average car is worth 50% less than you bought than you paid for it. I want to say the Tacoma is like 17% less. It's gotten to the point now you're better off to buy a new Tacoma than you are to buy a 1 or 2 year old Tacoma, because you're going to pay the same or more for the used truck. And that kind of impossible depreciation is what, makes it the champion, because people know that if they buy this truck, it'll hold its value. And you combine that with Toyota's reputation for reliability, which means that truck will go, 150, 200,000 miles without any major service. You've got yourself something that is an incredibly difficult combination to beat. So what would it take? Ooh, yeah.
That's what every car
Exactly.
brand is thinking. What would it take? I'm
Exactly.
sure they're all sitting there in rooms going, we got to beat them. What do we have to do? I mean, Ford's put a lot of effort in with their Ranger. I mean, and General Motors has got a lot in the Colorado, but still none of them can come close.
Yeah, because those numbers are just impossible to beat. So I don't think Toyota's worried about losing the crown in the mid-size truck segment. It's funny because on the other side of the coin, the Tundra, which is in the full-size truck segment, the half-ton segment, is not doing so well. They just had a whole bunch of issues with a recall where they recalled 200,000 engines, where they had to replace 200,000 engines.
Wow.
Yeah, that cost them in the billions with a B. That you would think that would translate, because there's always this belief that like, hey, I'm going to start buying a small truck and then I'm going to go trade it in a large truck. But it's not happening with the Tundra. They still sell a lot of Tundras, and Tundra sales, even because of the recall, have been strong. And I think it's because what we're seeing is the leader in trucks in America is Ford with the F-150. So Ford will tell you they sell anywhere from 500 to 600 F-Series trucks. They don't break it out necessarily. That's a lot of trucks. But Ford is also the king of recalls right now.
And they have a shortage of vehicles too, because of their aluminum plant.
It's crazy when you think about the spectrum. It's like you've got recalled Ford F-150 selling incredibly well, best-selling truck, and then you've got Toyota struggling to get into that full-size thing, but ruling in the mid-size category for 20 plus years now. All right, well, this has been a great episode. We've had a lot of good discussion here, Roman. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Always great adventures that you're having, and we love talking about them. We'll look forward to the next time you're on, and we will be back next week on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
You've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source for the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insights into the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. You can check out the entire archive of every episode on our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and join the conversation by leaving your comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive.